Nice 1-2 there from Whittaker, and then just steps off.
He looks just like another silly boy in the ring.
Through the round, can he follow it up? He looked for it again there, but he managed to drop the elbow on it, Gradia. And here he goes, Whittaker.
And it makes his opponents think he's an easy target, but fools always have to find out the hard way.
The accuracy and the placement. Look at this. Big shots. Gavazi in a heap of trouble.
He doesn't fight or move like most boxers. Hands low, chin high, smiling mid-exchange. And somehow, it keeps working.
Right hand cocked to ready to go. Huge right hand from Whittaker.
Ben Whittaker stepped into professional boxing carrying an Olympic silver medal, a sharp style, and a personality that doesn't try to blend in. He wasn't just trying to win fights, he was trying to control how they looked. This is a story about a fighter who makes people uncomfortable, not because he loses control, but because he never seems to need it.
When he staggered again here and down right to the very start of the round.
Whittaker didn't just randomly start moving like that in the ring. It came from years of structured boxing, built the traditional way, then slowly bent into something else. Ben Whittaker grew up in Wolverhampton, England, in a system that values discipline, structure, and repetition. Amateur boxing shaped him early, and it shows in the way he managed distance and timing. But even inside that structure, there were signs he wasn't going to follow the script completely.
Don Scott, a 1948 silver medalist in this weight division for Great Britain, is about to be joined by Ben Whittaker.
He wasn't reckless. That's the important part. What he did always had purpose. By the time he reached the international amateur level, he had already built a style that relied on control rather than pressure. He would draw reactions, read them, and then respond. That approach carried him all the way to the Olympic stage at the Tokyo 2020 Olympics, where he fought his way to the final and secured a silver medal. The result was strong, but the reaction after the loss told you more than the fights themselves.
Well, it's an outpouring of emotion. It's a silver for Ben Whittaker of Great Britain, who has an immediate release.
He stood on the podium, took the medal, and made it clear he wasn't satisfied. Just a visible frustration that suggested he expected more. That mindset followed him into the professional ranks, where expectations changed quickly. There was way less limitations and less restrictions to let his style fly loose. And that's where the young Ben Whittaker began to truly shine. Ben's first professional bout came in the face of Greg O'Neill. O'Neill came in as a durable opponent with experience, the kind of fighter brought in to test composure rather than threaten it. He had seen different styles before, and his job was simple: stay competitive, stay upright, and make the prospect work. From the opening moments, Whittaker didn't rush anything. He stayed at range, using small steps and subtle feints to pull reactions out of O'Neill. Instead of committing early, he let the fight settle into a rhythm where he could dictate pace. O'Neill tried to close distance behind a basic jab, but it never really landed clean. Every time he stepped forward, Whittaker adjusted, sometimes by moving back, sometimes by stepping slightly off to the side, and occasionally by just standing there long enough to make O'Neill hesitate. Once O'Neill slowed down, Whittaker started adding layers. He dropped his hands, leaned back out of range, and began landing clean counters.
Good shot, Greg.
There were moments where Whittaker would pause mid-exchange, almost inviting something back. O'Neill tried to respond, but the timing never lined up. He was reacting to movements that had already ended. By the end of the first round, it was clear that Whittaker was flying on another height. There was just no weapon O'Neill had against that young debuter. Ben felt it, and he just started to play. By the second round, Ben already examined some flaws in Greg's defense. O'Neill threw a lot of jabs, but his hand didn't retreat fully, leaving the jaw open for a right hand. Whittaker knew what to do. He just waited for the right moment, and when it came, he didn't miss. Just like that, with a clean right hand to the chin on the 21st second of the second round, the fight was over. Ben Whittaker started his pro record with a 1 at the start. That performance did two things at once. It showed that Whittaker could handle the professional environment, and it introduced a style that doesn't sit comfortably with everyone watching. But yet, there was a whole lot to prove to the world. The reaction to that debut shaped the matchmaking that followed. There was interest, but also skepticism. So the next step wasn't about finding a dangerous opponent. It was about seeing whether that style could hold up when someone refused to play along. Ben's next serious opposition came in the face of Jordan Grant, a Scottish gingerhead standing at 180 centimeters tall, opposed to Ben's 191 centimeters and a pro record of 6-3. Jordan came in with a different approach, less patient, more willing to push forward, and more focused on forcing exchanges rather than waiting for them. He wasn't there to solve the puzzle, he was there to break it. Early on, he tried to close the distance quickly, stepping in behind wider shots and looking to disrupt Whittaker's rhythm before it could settle. For a brief moment, it worked. The space tightened and Whittaker had to adjust faster than he did in the debut.
But he's quite lean and slim where, you know, you look at Jordan Grant, he's quite chunky, isn't he?
It's thick.
Yeah, very thick set, big legs. There's the showboating.
But instead of retreating completely, Ben started using shorter movements, small pivots, quick changes in angle. He reduced the space just enough to stay in control without getting caught standing still.
The training team, this is how he's going to choose to... He's just that kind of a character. Looking to try and measure that right hand.
Grant kept coming. That was the plan. And that's when Whittaker leaned further into his style.
I think it's Johnny who's shouting.
Nice 1-2 from Whittaker, and then just steps off.
He began to exaggerate the reactions, dropping his hands, leaning away from punches, even turning slightly out of exchanges before resetting. Not to show off, but to force Grant into overcommitting.
Persona.
And you've got to remember, Sugar works with Tyson as well, so he's probably used to a little bit of flair.
Absolutely, that's a very good point. He's used to handling big characters.
By the middle of the second round, the outcome was pretty clear. Whittaker was dominating the whole fight, and viewers were just waiting for the KO. And they got what they were waiting for.
Right hand cocked to ready to go. Huge right hand from Whittaker, who begins to dance as Grant gets...
Huge right hand from Whittaker that dropped the British ginger to the floor. And although Grant got up and continued, he went straight into survival mode. He kept stepping back and throwing single shots, and lucky he was to be saved by the bell.
That was the shot we was all waiting for. We knew it could come at any time, and he just pulled it out the bag.
Clark might save him here.
There's that lead right hand and the touch of gloves between the two.
Going into that third round, Whittaker was confident that the guy was hurt. At this point, it was a hungry lion hunting on a wounded doe. One clean shot, and the fight is over. Grant was still not able to recover from the knockdown fully, and Ben ended that just as easily as melting ice in the sun.
The scariest part about that, the backhand that came through is it wasn't even...
Oh, and he's staggered again, he's down right to the very start of the round here.
Just in the 10th second of the third round, with a beautiful left hook to the chin, Grant was laid out cold. His coach threw out a white towel in a sign of surrender, knowing there was no point in getting up anymore. This brought Ben Whittaker his third pro victory and his second KO. The early performances created a clear divide in how people viewed him. Some saw control and composure. Others saw unnecessary exposure, the kind that works until it suddenly doesn't. That tension started to influence the kind of opponents he was matched with. Not dangerous enough to derail momentum, but not cooperative either. Vladimir Belulsky was supposed to bring a bit more structure to the test. An opponent with experience, durability, and enough awareness to at least ask questions over multiple rounds. On paper, this was where Whittaker would be expected to settle into something more measured, something closer to a traditional professional approach. But I want to warn you from the start, he didn't. From the opening round, Whittaker controlled the distance with the same ease, but what changed was how openly he began to express himself inside the ring.
Stopped in the 8th by Carol Talma. Whittaker sharp from the beginning there, just looking to snap out that jab.
He wasn't just dictating range anymore. He was choosing when to engage and when to disengage with visible confidence.
Whittaker with that height, with that reach, just keeping Belulsky on the end of that lead hand at the moment.
Belulsky tried to close that space, but each attempt was met with clean counters or slight adjustments that left him falling short. By the middle of the second round, Whittaker started obliterating his opponent with combinations.
Spiteful, meaningful shots in.
Looking to try and chop down with that right, and he's just...
The difference in timing became the key factor again. Every time Belulsky tried to build any kind of rhythm, Whittaker interrupted it. Not with volume, but with precision.
Can keep this on the outside all night long if he wants to, but that isn't what he wants to do, not exclusively.
It slowed the fight down on Whittaker's terms, and once that control was established, the outcome became predictable. Ben started the third round controlling his opponent with jabs and throwing single power shots, looking to land it somewhere clean.
Nice jab into the pit of the stomach there from Whittaker. Sugar Hill encouraging in between rounds to double up on that left hand to the body. Ben looked for the right hand.
After landing a clean right hand in the second minute of the third round, Ben felt the taste of blood and began machine gunning his opponent with heavy blows, eventually pushing Belulsky onto the canvas.
Belulsky stepped in, let the right hand go. Doubling up hand to the body as instructed. Then turned it into a screw shot, then a right hand down the middle. That was neat. Belulsky in a little bit of trouble here, goes down in a heap.
The referee counted to 8, but Belulsky didn't plan on backing down. The fight continued, but Whittaker wasn't going to drop that pressure anytime soon.
Pressure back on Whittaker. I think he's probably going to try and go for the finish here.
Belulsky trying to pick those gloves up.
With Belulsky just trying to hold tight until the round bell.
From the first round onwards, just incrementally pace up, putting the punches together in 3s and 4s and 5s now rather than just 1s and 2s, and that was a heavy looking right hand. Belulsky did well to take that.
Whittaker didn't rush the finish. He allowed the fight to develop, maintaining composure while continuing to land the more accurate work. Belulsky stayed in the fight, continued trying to apply pressure, and gave Whittaker the rounds that earlier opponents hadn't been able to provide.
He's upped it in the final minute here. Solid combination.
By the later rounds, the accumulation of clean shots had started to take its effect. Belulsky was still there, still trying, but the gap in accuracy and control had widened enough that the outcome was no longer in doubt. Whittaker remained composed, continued picking his moments, and avoided forcing exchanges that weren't necessary. And in the 7th round, wanting to end it before the bell, Whittaker started swinging with heavy shots like crazy.
Whittaker put on the pressure here again.
Working away downstairs there, Whittaker.
The stoppage came in the 8th and final round. The referee just couldn't justify this massacre anymore.
Getting caught by two. That strong right hand there, though. The corner was coming forward, and Whittaker knows that he could be on for the finish here. Belulsky does the right thing, leans in, has jumped in, and stopped the fight. The corner don't like it.
This stoppage didn't shock anyone, and it wasn't sudden. It compiled through consistent damage Belulsky dealt with across the whole fight. For Ben Whittaker, this mattered more than any early finish, because for the first time in his professional career, he showed that he could maintain his style, his composure, and his control over a full fight before closing it late. It wasn't just about what he could do in 2 rounds anymore. It was about what he could sustain. And that added something new to the story. The reaction outside the ring was starting to shift slightly. People weren't just impressed, they were starting to notice the talent. Steven Leonetti Dre Dye brought a slightly different expectation into the fight, not because of elite threat level, but because he was expected to stay composed and extend the action longer than the opponents Whittaker had already dealt with. At this stage, the focus wasn't just on whether Whittaker would win, but on how he would manage rounds against someone willing to stay in front of him and keep working. From the opening round, Whittaker controlled the distance in familiar, playful fashion, using his timing to land cleaner shots while keeping Dre Dye from settling into any consistent rhythm.
Feeling out process shouldn't be as lengthy.
Open to swapping jabs. Well, right hand
Dre Dye attempted to press forward and close space, but each effort was met with measured responses rather than rushed exchanges.
Move, pulling back out of range, so just rode it.
Whittaker didn't overcommit early, choosing instead to let the fight develop.
He's moving with his showboating. He's got the good part in the ring right now, the center of the ring.
As the rounds progressed, that patience became the defining factor. Rather than forcing a quick finish, Whittaker continued to pick his moments, landing accurately while maintaining control of the pace.
Also, I think people have to, recognize that it's very good head movement.
Again, Dre Dye just...
Dre Dye remained active and willing, but the gap in timing and shot selection gradually became more obvious.
Yeah. Maybe this movement and negativity from Dre Dye's, making him more serious.
It's his knees and goes to the body with hand. Dre Dye looking for a left to the body.
Every round added to that separation, not through overwhelming bursts, but through consistent, cleaner work. By the fourth round, the accumulation had built enough to force a decision.
Looks to try and let go with that left hand. Dre Dye was coming forward. Closing stages of round 2.
Good body shot, good left hook to the body there from Ben.
Dre Dye was still trying, still in the fight, but no longer able to compete effectively with the pace and accuracy being set. He took the knee at the end of the third round.
Blood coming from the nose up there of Dre Dye, or it could be the mouth, and he goes down.
After getting obliterated for 3 rounds straight, Dre Dye's fate was already sealed before he could think about it.
Oh, shot. And he is out, his back, and he is out.
A clean left hook from Whittaker landed and sent Dre Dye to the canvas, and that moment was enough for the referee to step in and stop the fight. It wasn't the result of a wild exchange or sustained pressure in that moment, but a single, well-timed 1-2 that ended it for the fellow Albanian. It was a controlled breakdown over multiple rounds, showing that Whittaker could manage a fight, stay patient, and close it when the gap had clearly formed. Khalid Gradia stepped in next as Ben's 6th professional bout, and by this stage, the expectation wasn't just performance. It was dominance. Anything less than a clear, controlled win would have raised questions, and Whittaker approached the fight like he understood that. From the opening round, Whittaker made a decision. No messing around. He boxed in a far more orthodox, businesslike way than people had started to expect.
With the skill set of Ben Whittaker, Whittaker in the black, Gradia in the white. Gradia went 8 rounds with Dan Aziz last year.
Using his movement to stay elusive while landing straight shots and controlling the distance without unnecessary risks.
Gradia gets onto the inside and wide.
Gradia tried to close space, throwing wide overhand rights early, but he struggled to find the target. Whittaker's upper body, movement, and positioning made him difficult to hit cleanly, and even when Gradia got close, he couldn't settle into anything consistent.
See Whittaker here just trying to...
By the second round, Whittaker began to open up slightly, and this is where the difference in class started to show more clearly.
Brothers, family, and friends. Whittaker just going about this business here. Nice left hand into the body, and again an extravagant bit of evasion from the surgeon.
I actually enjoyed the first round. The way
Midway through the round, he dipped to his left and landed a clean, well-timed left hook to the body that forced Gradia down to a knee.
But show business and the swagger and the brand and all that type of thing. I do think... Oh, beautiful shot.
It wasn't rushed and it wasn't forced, but instead of pushing for the finish, he spun, literally.
Way through the round. Can he follow it up? He looked for it again there, but he managed to drop the elbow on it, Gradia. And here he goes, Whittaker.
A full 360-degree spin on one leg, like he just remembered he had an audience to entertain. That moment tells you everything about him. Most fighters see a knockdown and go into closing mode. Whittaker treated it like a break in the performance. The referee didn't find it funny. He issued a warning, and Gradia, who had just been hurt, was given a few extra seconds to recover because of it. It was unnecessary, it was avoidable, and it was completely in character. Then he went straight back to controlling the fight. In the third round, the structure returned. Whittaker used his jab to manage distance and began landing his right hand more consistently, either as a counter when Gradia missed or by getting off first before Gradia could set himself.
Whittaker. Gradia's going to need all his experience here.
Yeah, he's got to try and tuck up tight.
He also mixed in right hooks around the guard, showing that even while playing with the pace, he was still building the fight properly underneath it all. By this point, Gradia was still trying, but he was already falling behind. Then came the fourth round, and this is where the performance changed from controlled to theatrical. Whittaker opened up completely, not just with punches, but with everything else. He started taunting, started breaking rhythm on purpose, and at one point broke into a full dance routine mid-fight.
Whittaker's antics are maybe just riling Gradia up a little bit here. He's setting his feet and looking to let his hands go, but that could suit Ben Whittaker probably.
Gradia, already frustrated, began swinging wider, missing more, and walking into cleaner counters as a result. The more Whittaker played with him, the more Gradia lost structure, and it only widened the gap between them.
Right-hand side. Gradia's keeping his composure though. He's a very experienced fighter. Right-hand lands from around. He chases Whittaker with a left and puts him right on the...
By the end of the round, the fight was no longer competitive. It was just a matter of when it would end. And in the fifth, the tone changed again. The dancing show stopped. Whittaker came out with intent to finish it. He backed Gradia onto the ropes, pinned him there, and let his hands go with a sustained, accurate attack to both head and body.
You know, once you get annoyed and angry and you load up, your own game plan's gone out the window then.
He mixed in uppercuts, body shots, and straight punches, not in bursts, but in a sequence that didn't give Gradia space to recover. Gradia dropped.
He has had his own successes, just obviously not enough. That was a great body shot from Whittaker, and he felt that his hand stopped immediately.
Gradia in a little bit of trouble here, backs up to the corner, sinks down onto the bottom rope.
The referee stepped in, fifth round stoppage, and just like that, it was over. But the result wasn't the story. The story was everything in between, because in one fight, Whittaker showed two completely different versions of himself. A disciplined, controlled boxer in the early rounds, and then a fighter who started dancing, spinning, taunting, and still landing clean, damaging shots while doing it. Because depending on how you look at it, that performance was either a fighter so comfortable he can do whatever he wants, or a fighter getting away with things he won't always be able to. And right now, both can still be true. Leon Willings wasn't brought in to be stopped early. A Central Area champion, durable, experienced enough to understand how to survive rounds, and more importantly, stubborn enough not to go anywhere even when the fight starts slipping. That made him a different kind of opponent for Whittaker, because for the first time, the expectation wasn't a quick finish. From the opening round, Whittaker approached the fight with intent, establishing his jab early and repeatedly driving it into Willings' body.
Good performance against Jake Barton in Liverpool. Boxing out of the away corner. He hasn't had too long to prepare for this, but he never strays too far from the gym. The price has gone up again in most people's minds.
He used that lead hand to bring Willings' guard down, testing reactions and creating openings before accelerating the pace when he chose to. A double jab set up a right hand that landed clean, and as he guided Willings back toward the ropes, he opened up with more variety. A left hook to the body, followed by a left hook upstairs, and then a right hand over the top sent Willings down to a knee.
Yeah, I like Ben. Ben's very busy with his jab. Thrown about 1,000 shots already.
Looking to shut down with the right hand.
That early knockdown showed clean control and total domination from the first round, except the fight didn't go where people thought it would after that. Since it was just the start of the bout, Willings got up and continued, still looking fresh after those battery of shots.
Willings just shaking his head as he realised the knockout was going to be given. Then, when boxing resumed, tried to climb into a left hook, but a reddening up on the left-hand side of the face as well as the ribcage. Whittaker picking his punches well here.
He's really digging them in now.
Whittaker continued to control the action, landing the cleaner shots and dictating the pace, but Willings didn't disappear. He absorbed the pressure, kept coming forward in phases, and made the fight last.
During the week, which I very much enjoyed, we may well get back to it. It's given Willings some confidence. Maybe caught Whittaker a little bit cold at the start.
Even as Whittaker began to mix in heavier shots, including sustained combinations and right hands to the head, Willings kept responding, kept trying to work, and refused to let the fight collapse into a one-sided stoppage.
But it's making for, and it's quite dangerous because he throws it in a quite unorthodox manner. Good right hands here though from Whittaker.
But Whittaker kept raining down punches with confidence.
Really good stuff by Ben Whittaker. Lovely right hand. Yeah, that was nice. More confident. Didn't win the round, but was definitely had a better round. Yeah, Ben Whittaker's just teeing off and Willings on the ropes.
Good 1-2 there from Whittaker. Willings trying to get off the ropes.
And in the middle of all that, Whittaker started entertaining himself in the crowd.
He found the range well there, Whittaker. Right hand comes back there from Willings, and Whittaker, I think, is enjoying this, having somebody in front of him who is really looking to try and throw back in a little bit of a...
At one point, he even turned away from the action mid-fight to speak toward Willings' corner, as if the fight itself wasn't demanding enough attention.
He's growing in confidence as well. How can he let him talk to his coach? Jeez.
And Whittaker with the long right hand gets through, and he's trying to put Willings under some pressure in the corner here, but Willings just rocking and rolling there, managed to get it.
As the rounds progressed, the damage began to show. Willings started taking more clean shots, and a cut opened over his right eye as Whittaker continued to playfully box around, dancing and throwing silly punches.
He's cut now on the right eye.
On the corner of the right eye. From one of those right hands, you would imagine, has a little bit of a wild swing at Whittaker, who shimmies in front of him, playing the matador to the ball, but Willings does manage to get hold of him to it.
By the fifth round, Willings was visibly feeling the pace, taking breaths, trying to stay composed as Whittaker pressed forward more deliberately. But even then, he kept holding up.
Whittaker has won every round, clearly, but he's certainly been competitive, Willings.
Ben Whittaker's really struggling to land that right hand now. It looks like Willings is...
It forced Whittaker to stay switched on in a way he hadn't fully needed to before. There were times where Whittaker allowed those exchanges to happen, even took shots to prove a point, and while he remained in control, it showed that this wasn't a completely one-sided shutout.
Just capable there, Willings, of coming back with something. Whittaker sticking to the task, right hand there, left into the body, lands one to the body, Willings.
And although everyone anticipated it to end at any moment, it went the distance. Whittaker won clearly on the scorecards, 78-73, after dropping Willings and controlling the majority of the action across all 8 rounds. For the first time, Ben had to sustain that control over a full fight against someone who didn't fade and fought back instead of becoming a victim. Next one to have the chance of stopping the cocky show-off was Arinka Ezra Arinka, a fellow Nigerian with a clean record of 12 fights and 12 wins. After gate-crashing Whittaker's press conference and building tension before the bout, this wasn't just about boxing anymore. There was already irritation, already ego involved, and that changed the tone before a punch had even been thrown. It meant this fight wasn't going to be quiet, and it wasn't going to be clean. From the opening bell, Whittaker kept things controlled early, as usual using his jab to establish distance and landing clean, straight shots without overcommitting.
Nigeria. Whittaker looking to try and get onto it.
So I'm sure it will come.
The difference in class showed immediately, and Arinka, despite his aggression, struggled to land anything consistent as Whittaker dictated the pace.
Whittaker going to look to try and break him up with a jab, body shots.
But that didn't last long, because once the control was established, the personality came back into it.
Whittaker then, well, he will be falling right into the surgeon's scalpel.
With Arinka playing along.
He's playing him at his own game. Here we go.
Then, Whittaker went back to work. He started mixing his attacks more clearly, using his jab to set up heavier shots, including right hands and uppercuts that landed cleanly as Arinka tried to close distance.
Up from the waist.
He mixes the speed up, he changes.
Arinka kept trying. He pressed forward, threw in phases, and refused to stop engaging, but the success wasn't there consistently.
Entertain the crowd and enjoy himself. But you look at his fights, and he builds into the fight. He looks to establish the jab, then put the right hand on the back of it, and then bit by looking like he might have been stunned, swaying slightly when he wasn't.
As the gap grew wider and wider, and as Whittaker played more and more, Arinka started getting pissed out of his shoes about his behavior. At the end of the 6th round, after Whittaker walked Arinka back toward his corner in a taunting gesture, Arinka responded with a headbutt. It wasn't accidental. It was a reaction to frustration, and it shifted the tone of the fight immediately. And it didn't end there. In the following round, during an exchange at close range, Arinka decided to go into Muay Thai mode. And although the referee deducted a point, the fight, which had already been tense, now had a layer of hostility that couldn't be ignored. But to everyone's surprise, Whittaker stayed in control. No anger whatsoever. He just continued the work. By the end of the 8th, the anger had settled and the fight returned to boxing, with Whittaker staying in control and seeing it through the full 10 rounds without letting it slip.
What Whittaker has had to give him up until this point.
The fight finished with a unanimous decision for Whittaker. Absolute domination.
Judge Phil Edwards sees it 100-89, while judges Elena Pomivailo and Bayaskalan Sandog see it 99-90, declaring your winner by unanimous decision and the new IBF International Light Heavyweight Champion, the Surgeon, Ben Whittaker!
Whittaker went out of that fight as a true professional, showing that could control someone over 10 rounds, but that he could do it while dealing with frustration, disruption, and moments that pushed the fight away from pure boxing. After Arinka, the narrative around Whittaker shifted. Before, it was simple. He was talented, dominant, and stopping opponents early. Now, the conversation became more complicated. He was still winning clearly, but people started asking why he was making fights harder than they needed to be. As more footage emerged, certain habits became obvious. He wasn't just relying on skill, but on reactions, trusting his timing enough to stay in positions most fighters would avoid. That approach works, but it also leaves him available to be caught, and that distinction becomes more dangerous as the level rises. At the same time, his confidence kept growing. Each fight reinforced his belief that he could succeed without changing, proving to himself that he didn't need to follow a safe or textbook style. That's what turned him from just a prospect into a talking point. Clips of his movement, his hands dropping, and the way he invited shots before slipping them began circulating widely. It wasn't reckless in the sense of losing control, but it was unnecessary. And that's what made people uneasy. Because while the results were still dominant, that contradiction defined him. A fighter who looks relaxed while taking risks. Effective, but walking a line that will only get thinner as he steps up. Then came Liam Cameron. Initially, he was supposed to be a step up, not in hype, but in reality. Experience, durability, and the kind of pressure that doesn't disappear after a round or two. From the early rounds, the fight felt different. Whittaker still had moments of control, still landed the cleaner shots, but Cameron didn't give him the same space others had. He pressed forward, stayed physical, and forced Whittaker back toward the ropes more than anyone before him.
There's a right hand from Cameron. Whittaker, the mentality, he won a silver in the 2020 Olympics, but he said, that was a failure for me. You don't win silver, you lose gold. I'm very disappointed. He has every shot in his artillery. Nice jab.
Whittaker had to work, had to respond, and at times had to deal with a fight that wasn't fully on his terms. Cameron kept pushing, kept trying to close distance, and made sure the fight never settled into something easy or predictable.
To gain that valuable experience before he gets to that next level.
Yeah, I agree, Chris. You just need to start targeting the body with the straight arcing and taunting.
And it continued that way into the 3rd and 4th rounds.
Have you seen it? We spoken about the power. Full cocky move. Oh, nice.
They're on different levels.
Well, right hand.
They're going to present different challenges. Liam Cameron is an experienced.
And even in the fight round.
And sort of pressure from people like us who say he lacks a bit of power, a bit of strength. Nice right hand for a little bit. But it sounds stupid, but like, he gets a throw and a rhythm to his showboating.
And as the 5th bell was about to go off, something unexpected happened. As Cameron came forward, the two became entangled near the ropes. What followed wasn't a punch, not a knockdown, but some move straight out of WWE. One moment they were fighting, the next they were on the floor in pain.
Being educated about.
He's getting hit by a much slower fighter. And wait a minute! They've gone Royal Rumble WWE style. Both guys seem to be injured here.
Cameron managed to climb back in. Whittaker didn't. He had landed badly, injuring his ankle, and couldn't continue. And just like that, the fight was over with a technical decision. The scorecards were split. One for Whittaker, one for Cameron, one level. It was a draw, Whittaker's first fight without a clear winner. It was finally an opponent that started to ask questions and never got the chance to answer them. After the fall, it was immediately clear something was wrong. Ben Whittaker couldn't put weight on his right leg and had to be helped out of the arena before being taken to hospital for further checks. He left the venue in a wheelchair, with his ankle heavily supported, and the focus quickly shifted from the result to the injury itself. While early signs suggested it wasn't a serious break, the incident was enough to halt all momentum, turning what should have been a step forward into an uncertain pause. But Ben promised to come back stronger.
That performance was not a reflection of Ben Whittaker. It was a terrible performance, if I'm honest. But if you watched it was like watching two people fight at Wetherspoons. It was terrible. But at the end of the day, I can go back and correct what I've got to correct.
The first fight didn't just pause his momentum, it shifted how people saw him. For the first time, Ben Whittaker didn't have a clear win to stand behind, and that raised questions he hadn't faced before. Liam Cameron had stayed with him, made it physical, and showed that Whittaker could be pushed into a fight that wasn't fully under his control. The injury only added to it. In the months that followed, recovery became as much mental as physical, and with the result unresolved, a rematch quickly became inevitable. The first fight with Cameron didn't damage Whittaker's momentum, but changed the expectations, because now there was footage of him being forced into rounds, footage of someone staying in front of him longer than expected, and that meant the second fight wasn't just about repeating the result, it was about showing progression. Cameron came in with the same intent: close distance, stay active, and remove the space Whittaker prefers to operate in. But this time, the response was sharper. Whittaker controlled the tempo with more authority. He interrupted Cameron earlier, resetting the exchanges before they could develop.
Half-court Whittaker around the back. Creep in. Keep coming in. He's not particularly explosive. Doesn't have that burst of acceleration.
He still moved the same way, still showed the same relaxed approach, but there was less waiting. When Cameron tried to close distance, Whittaker gave him less time to work, and that gradually reduced the effectiveness of the pressure that had been more visible in the first fight.
The tempo that he does bring is consistent.
And that's a good right hand from Cameron. They're confident that he wants to, hoping to catch up with him.
Then in the second round, it shifted quickly. Whittaker landed a big right hand that stunned Cameron and immediately followed it with a sharp sustained attack.
The important thing for Cameron. Oh, that's a great right hand!
Chasing after Whittaker. He's right here, Cameron. He's in big trouble here, the referee.
Cameron tried to hold on and recover, but the pressure didn't ease, and the referee stepped in to wave it off.
He's having a close look. His legs are not steady. He's sitting on the ropes. Cameron has been stopped here. Augusta has jumped in and stopped the fight. He got him going.
It was over in under 2 rounds. A stoppage clean as water. And more importantly, a version of Whittaker that didn't leave anything open to question. He showed he had taken the lesson and acted on it, not leaving a chance for Cameron to offer something in return.
Listen, you had everybody boo me, man. They portray me as a bad guy. But at the end of the day, I worked very hard. So I got lost in it. But what I did was calm down, go to Ireland, lock in. And you saw Ben Whittaker there, the real Ben Whittaker.
Benjamin Gavazzi came next, and by this point, Whittaker's reputation had already been established, not just as a prospect, but as someone people were watching closely for reasons beyond results. Whittaker returned to a more expressive version of his style, controlling distance while still allowing moments where he stood closer than needed. Gavazzi tried to take advantage of those moments, stepping forward and attempting to close space, but like most before him, he struggled to land consistently.
Yeah, he's got that natural flair, but it's about knuckling down to business here and getting the job done in good fashion.
And he came straight out the blocks, did Gavazzi.
And midway through the first round, it broke.
Shark-infested 12 stone 7 division. Lovely body shot and a big right hand.
A clean right hand dropped Gavazzi, and from there, Whittaker didn't hesitate. He stepped in, followed up with a left and another right that landed flush, which landed his opponent onto the canvas. But as if that wasn't enough, in less than 30 seconds, it was over once, and for good.
As you say, the accuracy and the placement. Look at this.
Big shot. Gavazzi in a heap of trouble.
Gavazzi was laid out cold. The referee didn't even intend to count. This was another performance where the style became part of the story, and by now, that story was impossible to ignore. This Saturday, Ben Whittaker steps into the main event against Brian Suarez in Liverpool, and on paper, it looks one-sided. Whittaker is a heavy favorite, with odds as short as 1-20, reflecting a clear gap in speed, skill, and overall level. But Suarez brings something dangerous, power, with 20 knockouts and 21 wins, and a mindset that isn't built to play along. That's what makes this fight interesting, because this isn't just about winning anymore. It's about how Whittaker wins. After everything that's happened, the expectation is dominance, but Suarez is coming in convinced he can end the hype. And in boxing, it only takes one moment to prove him right. For now, Ben Whittaker has done everything expected of a top prospect, but not in the way people are used to. He's controlled fights, stopped opponents, and adjusted when things didn't go his way, but he's also taken risks that keep the conversation around him alive. That's what makes him different. You're not just watching the result, you're watching how close he's willing to get to losing control before taking it back. The question isn't whether he's good enough anymore.
Way through the round. Can he follow it up? He looked for it again there, but he managed to drop the elbow on it, Gradia. And here he goes, Whittaker.
It's whether his way of fighting will hold when someone refuses to be controlled. Because sooner or later, that moment comes for everyone. And when it does, we'll find out exactly who Ben Whittaker really is. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and keep loving boxing. Until the next one.
Whittaker, then, well, he will be falling right into the surgeon's scalpel. Way through the round. Can he follow it up? He looked for it again there, but he managed to drop the elbow on it.